The Boston Massacre occurred on March 5, 1770. A squad of British soldiers who came to support another group who was being harassed by an angry snowball-throwing crowd let loose a volley of shots. 3 people were killed immediately, and 2 died later of their wounds. Among the victims was Crispus Attucks, a man of black or Indian parentage. The British officer in charge, Captain Thomas Preston, was arrested for manslaughter along with 8 of his men, but all were later acquitted. The Boston Massacre is remembered as a key event in helping to stimulate the colonial public to the patriot cause. The British troops had been lodged in Boston in October 1768 after repeated requests from British customs officials, who had been harassed and intimidated because of their efforts to enforce the Townshend Acts. Numerous clashes between the soldiers and the citizenry resulted. The killings of March 5th, soon called a massacre by Patriot leaders and commemorated in a widely circulated engraving by Paul Revere, aroused intense public protests and threats of violent retaliation. This pressure caused Lieutenant Governor Thomas Hutchinson to withdraw the troops to an island in the harbor. In an effort to demonstrate the impartiality of colonial courts, 2 Patriot leaders, John Adams and Josiah Quincy, volunteered to defend Captain Preston and his men. The prosecution produced little evidence, and Preston and 6 of the soldiers were acquitted. 2 others were found guilty of manslaughter, branded on the hand, and released. Although many patriots criticized the verdicts and the anniversary of the Boston Massacre became a patriotic holiday, the removal of the troops from Boston and the repeal of all but one of the contested import duties resulted in a lowering of tension in the years following the incident. Nevertheless, Governor Hutchinson's reluctant removal of troops from Boston under threat of insurrection expressed the weakness of imperial power as it was then constituted when faced with organized local resistance.
You stupid, ugly redcoats! You're fat! Tea drinkers! Go back to Britain! Nasty colonists.
The Boston Tea Party is a famed act of American colonial defiance that served as a protest against taxation. Seeking to boost the financially weakened East India Company, British Parliament adjusted import duties with the passage of the Tea Act in 1773. 500,000 pounds of tea were shipped from Britain across the Atlantic to the colonies. While consignees in Charleston, New York, and Philadelphia rejected tea shipments, merchants in Boston, including 2 of Governor Thomas Hutchinson's sons as well as his nephew, refused to give in to Patriot pressure. On the night of December 16, 1773, Samuel Adams and the Sons of Liberty, disguised as Mohawk Indians, boarded 3 ships in the Boston harbor and threw 342 chests of tea overboard. It took nearly 3 hours for more than 100 colonists to empty the tea into Boston harbor. The chests held more than 90,000 pounds, or 45 tons of tea, which would cost nearly $1 million today. This resulted in the passage of the Punishing Coercive Acts in 1774 and pushed the 2 sides closer to war. The battles of Lexington and Concord, fought on April 19, 1775, kicked off the American Revolutionary War that lasted from 1775 to 1783. Tensions had been building up for many years between residents of the 13 American colonies and the British authorities, particularly in Massachusetts with the Tea Party and Massacre. On the night of April 18, 1775, hundreds of British troops marched from Boston to nearby Concord in order to seize an arms cache. Paul Revere and other writers sounded the alarm, and colonial militiamen began mobilizing to intercept the Redcoat column. A confrontation on the Lexington town green started off the fighting, and soon the British were hastily retreating under intense fire. Many more battles followed, and in 1783 the colonists formally won their independence.
The British are coming! The British are coming!
I heard that shout around the world.
Can you feel it? Now it's coming steal it. If we bridge this gap, I can see you through the curtains of the water.